It all began when I met Tom in college. My name is Sarah. Despite being enrolled in different courses, we clicked immediately away. He was gorgeous, humorous, and endearing. We dated all through college, and by the time we were ready to graduate, we were deeply in love. Soon after college, we were married, and I was ecstatic. Ellen and George, my parents, were wealthy. They'd always fulfilled all of my wishes, and my wedding was no different. The scene was perfect, a beautiful white dress, an elegant setting, everything. We had a blissful first year of marriage. The world was at our feet, we were in love, and we were young. I was teaching at a nearby elementary school, and Tom had secured a fantastic position with a marketing company. Life was pleasant. Then I discovered I was pregnant approximately a year after our marriage. I was ecstatic. I wasn't quite prepared for his response. His eyes did not open when he grinned. I dismissed his indifferent reply, attributing it to surprise. I knew that once the news set in, he would change his mind. We had our daughter Lily 9 months later. With 10 tiny fingers, 10 tiny toes, and lungs that could rouse the dead, she was flawless. I was enamored. Conversely, Tom appeared overpowered. Lily would be held uncomfortably by him, as if she were a ticking time bomb. When she sobbed, which was frequently, he would almost immediately leave the room. One night, when Lily had finally gone to sleep, he added, "I thought we'd have more time to enjoy being married, travel, all that stuff." I attempted to comfort him. "Tom, we still have all that to do. With Lily, everything will just be a bit different." Tom began staying late at work more and more frequently as the months passed. When Lily was asleep, he would return home and complain about demanding clients and large tasks. Though I really wanted to trust him, a persistent doubt began to form in the depths of my being. For Tom, Friday nights turned become guys' night. He would go out with his coworkers and return home in the early morning hours, hungover. When Lily's cries roused him, he would snap, "Keep that kid quiet, will you?" Some of us need to sleep. 3 years passed in a flurry of tears, outbursts, and snatched moments of happiness. With her dad's bright eyes and my unyielding chin, Lily was a lively 3-year-old at this point. Lily had begun kindergarten, and I had returned to my job. Even though Tom and I had established a pattern, it felt like we were only going through the motions. The day that destroyed what was remained of our marriage then arrived. One evening over dinner, Tom announced that he had a business trip the following week. "I'll be gone for 3 days." I nodded, used by now to his frequent absences. Tom's mother, Martha, called me in a panic the day after he departed. Her voice faltered. "Sarah, I'm at the hospital," she said. Some chest ache struck me. "Could you please inform Tom?" My heart pounded. "Martha, naturally. I will give him a quick call." However, Tom was not picking up his phone. I tried for hours before I became concerned. What if he had also experienced something? I contacted Mike, his supervisor, in despair. Business trip. Mike sounded perplexed. I didn't send Tom on any trip. The globe swung in one direction. Where the hell was Tom if he wasn't on a business trip? I was ready when, 3 days later, he strolled in the door, whistling as if he had no cares in the world. "How was your trip?" I questioned, cynicism seeping into my voice. "Your mom's in the hospital, and your boss says he never sent you anywhere." Tom lost all color in his face. "Sarah, I can explain." "Preserve it," I spat out. "For once, just tell me the truth. Are you betraying me?" All I needed was the stillness that came next. Tom muttered, "Her name's Amanda," at the end. It's been going on for a while now. The divorce was not pretty. Tom and I disagreed on everything, even Lily's teddy bear and the home and automobile. Worst of all, though, was when he stopped paying child support. I refused to pay for a child I never desired. He growled at one of our sessions. A part of me broke. I responded, fine, in a chilly tone. I want you to give up your parental rights, but keep your money. Make it official. You don't want to be a parent. That much is evident. Tom, to my surprise, didn't even think twice. With a flourish, he signed the paperwork and was gone from our lives. The following 2 years weren't easy. Tom's parents, bless them, helped us out with Lily and provided financial support when needed. But being a single mother was more difficult than I ever could have imagined. Then I met Jack when Lily was 5 years old. Emma, his daughter, was a year Lily's junior. He was a widower. We became close through PTA meetings and playground get-togethers. And before I realized it, I was falling in love once more. Lily and Emma served as our flower girls when we had a short ceremony. For the first time in a long time, hope began to sprout in my chest as I watched Jack with the girls. Our small family became closer over time. Lily began referring her Jack as Dad, while Emma addressed me as Mom. We had a sense that we were intended to be together forever. Max was born 3 years after we were married. Jack showed equal affection to all 3 of my children, never making a distinction between them. We were sincerely and genuinely thrilled, 20 years ago. At times it seems like it was only yesterday that Lily was a young child, clumsily pacing our living room. Now that she's 25, she's engaged, a college graduate, and organizing her own wedding. How come time flew by? Lily's fiancé is an amazing man. He's liked by both Jack and myself. He is considerate, diligent, and obviously devoted to our kid. Jack set a private account for Lily's wedding expenditures and granted her complete access as soon as they announced their engagement. Lily wept and gave us each a hug when we informed her. Our house was a frenzy of wedding publications, color swatches, and exciting phone calls for weeks after that. Lily would show up at the door, bursting to the seams with information on locations, outfits, and centerpieces. She would splatter pictures all over our kitchen table and say, "Mom, Dad, you won't believe what we found. Isn't this centerpiece gorgeous?" I would grin and nod along with her, enjoying her exuberance. Her happiness at being a part of this wonderful phase of her life touched my heart. But then things started to change. The visits became less frequent, the phone calls shorter. At first, I chalked it up to wedding stress. Planning a wedding is no small feat, after all. But as the weeks went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Then on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Lily showed up unannounced. The moment I saw her face, I knew something was wrong. Her usual bright smile was gone, replaced by a tense, almost nervous expression. "Mom, I need to talk to you and Jack," she said, stumbling over the name. My heart dropped. Jack, not Dad. In all the years since Jack had come into our lives, I'd never heard Lily call him anything but Dad. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let me get Jack." I found my husband in the garage, tinkering with his latest project. One look at my face, and he was on his feet, wiping his hands on a rag. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern etching his features. "It's Lily," I replied. "She wants to talk to us." "And Jack." I saw the hurt flash across his face before he schooled his expression into calm neutrality. He nodded, took my hand, and together we walked back into the house. Lily was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Jack and I sat down across from her, our hands still linked under the table. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. "All right, Lily," Jack said, his voice gentle despite the worry I could see in his eyes. "We're here. What did you want to talk about?" Lily took a deep breath, her eyes darting between Jack and me. I met my biological father a couple of months ago. I was at Grandma Martha's, and he showed up. We talked for hours. He's changed, Mom. He wants to make things right. I felt Jack stiffen beside me. And what does this have to do with the wedding? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. Lily's chin lifted, a stubborn set to her jaw that I recognized all too well. He asked to walk me down the aisle, and I want him to. The silence that followed was deafening. I could practically hear the sound of Jack's heartbreak. Lily, I said gently, sweetheart, I know this is confusing, but Jack has been your dad since you were 5. Tom abandoned you. He signed away his rights. He made a mistake. Lily's voice rose. He's sorry now. He wants to fix things. Jack leaned forward, his face a mask of hurt and confusion. Lily, I've raised you as my own for 20 years. I've been there for every scraped knee, every school play, every heartbreak. I thought I was your dad. You are, insisted Lily, then faltered. I mean, you're my stepdad, and I love you, but Tom is my real father. It's my wedding, and I want him to walk me down the aisle. I saw the moment Jack's heart shattered. His face crumpled for a split second before he regained control. Lily, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I've always considered you my daughter, not my stepdaughter, my daughter. Well, I'm not, Lily shouted, jumping to her feet. You're my stepfather, not my real dad. This is my wedding, and I'll decide who walks me down the aisle. The front door slammed and Emma, Jack's biological daughter, rushed into the kitchen. What's going on? Why is everyone yelling? Close behind her was Max, our son, looking bewildered. Mom, Dad, Lily? I quickly filled them in, watching their faces change from confusion to anger. How could you do this to Dad? Emma demanded, glaring at Lily. After everything he's done for you. Max nodded, his young face twisted with hurt. Yeah, Lily, Dad's always treated us all the same. How can you say he's not your real dad? Lily looked around wildly, her eyes filling with tears. You don't understand. None of you understand. With that, she bolted from the house, the door slamming behind her. We all stood there in stunned silence. Jack's face was ashen, his eyes fixed on the spot where Lily had been standing. Emma moved to his side, wrapping an arm around him. Max joined them, and I watched as my family closed ranks around Jack. I moved to Jack's other side, taking his hand. He looked at me, his eyes swimming with unshed tears. I don't understand, he whispered. Where did I go wrong? My heart broke for him, for all of us. You didn't go wrong, I said firmly. You've been the best father any of these kids could ask for. I don't know what's gotten into her. As we stood there, our little family huddled together in the kitchen, I couldn't help but wonder how things had gone so wrong, and more importantly, how we were going to fix this. The days following Lily's bombshell announcement were tense. Jack and I kept expecting her to call, to apologize, to come to her senses, but the call never came. Instead, my phone started buzzing with notifications, friends and family members, sending me links asking if I'd seen Lily's latest posts. With a heavy heart, I opened her social media page. There they were, photos of Lily with Tom, both grinning at the camera, so happy to reconnect with my real dad. The caption read, and each word felt like a knife twisting in my gut. When I showed Jack, his face hardened. That's it, he said, his voice low and controlled. If she doesn't consider me her father anymore, I'm not paying for her wedding. I'm blocking her access to the wedding account. She's made her choice. I didn't argue. How could I when he looked so broken? A few days later, the other shoe dropped. Lily burst into our house like a hurricane, her face red with fury. "What the hell?" she screamed, not even bothering with a greeting. "Why can't I access the wedding account? How am I supposed to pay the vendors, the venue, the caterers?" "I'm sure your real father can help you out," Jack replied, his voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. "Since you've chosen him, it seems only right that he should foot the bill." Lily gaped at him, then turned to me. "Mom, you can't let him do this. Make him give me access to the account." Again, I shook my head slowly. "Lily, this is Jack's decision, and frankly, I agree with him." "What?" she shrieked. "How can you take his side? I'm your daughter." "And Jack is my husband," I replied firmly. "He's been more of a father to you than Tom ever was. You can't expect to hurt him like this and still have him pay for your wedding." Lily's face contorted with rage. "Fine," she spat. "If that's how it's going to be, then you need to make a choice, Mom. It's me or him, your daughter or your husband. Choose." She stood there, chest heaving, clearly expecting me to cave, to choose her, my flesh and blood, over Jack. But in that moment, looking at her tantrum-throwing face, I didn't recognize my daughter at all. "I'm not choosing anyone, Lily," I said quietly. "I love you, and I love Jack, but I agree with his decision. You're an adult now. If you want Tom to be your real father, then you need to deal with the consequences of that choice." Lily's face crumpled. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the little girl she used to be, the one who would run to Jack with skinned knees and bad dreams. Then her expression hardened again. "I hate you," she sobbed. "I hate both of you." And with that, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. A few days after Lily's dramatic exit, my phone buzzed again. Another social media notification. With a sense of dread, I opened it. There was Lily, beaming next to Tom. The caption read, "Thanks to my amazing dad for funding my dream wedding. It's going to be the event of the century. P.S. Sarah, Jack, and kids. Don't bother showing up. You're not invited." I showed Jack, who just shook his head sadly. Where did Tom suddenly get all this money? He wondered aloud. I shrugged. Who knows? Maybe he won the lottery. Either way, it's not our problem anymore. We tried to put it out of our minds to focus on our life and our other kids, but fate, it seemed, had other plans. A week later, there was a knock at our door. I opened it to find Martha and George, Tom's parents, looking worried and frazzled. "Sarah, dear," Martha said, wringing her hands, "we need your help." I ushered them in, calling for Jack. Once we were all settled in the living room, George spoke up. "We got a call from the bank," he explained. "They're saying we've missed a loan payment, but we never took out a loan." The next day, I found myself at the bank with Martha and George, piecing together a disturbing puzzle. Tom, it turned out, had taken out a massive loan using forged documents. He'd made his parents unwitting co-signers. "I'm so sorry," the bank manager said, looking genuinely distressed. "But unless the loan is repaid, we'll have to start proceedings against Mr. and Mrs. Johnson." Martha burst into tears, and George looked shell-shocked. "We'll figure this out," I assured them, even as my mind raced. How could Tom do this to his own parents? Back at home, I filled Jack in on everything. He listened, his face growing grimmer by the second. "We need to call the police," he said finally. "Tom's committed fraud. His parents shouldn't suffer for his crimes." I nodded, my heart heavy. Despite everything, I never wanted it to come to this. The next few days were a whirlwind. Police statements, bank meetings, more tears from Martha and George, and then finally, the news we'd been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. Tom had been arrested. As the details emerged, the full scope of Tom's deception became clear. He'd taken out the loan not just for Lily's wedding, but to impress a new girlfriend. He'd been living large on borrowed money and forged signatures. The funds have been frozen, the detective informed us. We'll be seizing them as evidence. My thoughts immediately went to Lily, all that money she'd been bragging about, the lavish wedding she'd been planning. It was all gone, fruits of a poisoned tree. That evening, as Jack and I sat on the porch trying to process everything that had happened, my phone rang. It was Lily. "Mom," she sobbed, her voice cracking. "Everything's ruined. The money's gone. The wedding's off. What am I going to do?" I closed my eyes, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Sympathy, frustration, a tiny bit of vindication, but mostly I felt tired. So very tired. "I don't know, Lily," I said softly. "I really don't know." A few days after the phone call, Lily showed up at our doorstep. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair disheveled. She looked nothing like the radiant bride-to-be she'd been just weeks ago. "Mom, Dad?" she said, her voice small. I noticed she was calling Jack Dad again. "I need your help." We invited her in, sitting around the kitchen table where we'd had so many family discussions before. Jack's face was a mask of calm, but I could see the turmoil in his eyes. "The wedding's off unless we can find the money," Lily explained, her words tumbling out. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but please, can you help me? Can you give me the money for the wedding?" I glanced at Jack. His jaw was set, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. Part of him wanted to sweep in and fix everything like he always had, but we both knew we couldn't do that this time. "Lily," I said gently, "we can't just give you the money, not after everything that's happened." But Lily started to protest, but Jack cut her off. "We can't forgive you that quickly," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "Actions have consequences, Lily. You made your choice, and now you have to deal with the fallout." Lily's face crumpled. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "Ben is furious. He says I'm unstable, that I create drama. He's threatening to call off the engagement if we can't have the wedding we planned." My heart ached for her. Despite everything, she was still my little girl. I wanted to wrap her in my arms and make everything better, but I knew we couldn't. "Sweetheart," I said, reaching out to take her hand. "I'm so sorry you're going through this, but this is a problem you created, and it's one you need to solve yourself. We love you." Jack added, his voice thick with emotion, "But we can't bail you out of this. It wouldn't be right, and it wouldn't help you in the long run." Lily looked between us, realization dawning in her eyes. We weren't going to cave. We weren't going to fix this for her. "Fine," she spat, yanking her hand away from mine. "I'll figure it out myself. I don't need you, either of you." She stormed out, leaving Jack and me sitting in stunned silence. Weeks passed. We heard through the grapevine that Lily and Ben had gotten married at the city hall, with just a handful of guests present. We weren't invited. The night we heard about the wedding, I found Jack sitting on the porch, staring into the distance. "I feel like I failed her," he said quietly as I sat down next to him. I took his hand, squeezing it gently. "You didn't fail her, Jack. We raised her to be strong, independent, and responsible. Sometimes that means letting her face the consequences of her actions." "But what if we pushed her away for good?" he asked, his voice breaking. I leaned my head on his shoulder. "Every person in life faces situations where they have to make a choice," I said softly. "Sometimes those choices turn out to be wrong. That's what happened with Lily. But she's strong. She'll learn from this, and hopefully she'll find her way back to us." We sat there in silence, watching the sunset. Our family had been through a storm, and I knew we weren't out of the woods yet. But as I sat there with Jack, I felt a glimmer of hope. We'd weathered storms before. We'd weather this one too. 3 months after Lily's hasty City Hall wedding, I bumped into an old friend at the grocery store. As we caught up, she let slip something that made my heart skip a beat. "I heard Lily and Ben are having trouble," she said, lowering her voice. "Someone told me they're talking about divorce." I thanked her, my mind reeling. As soon as I got home, I filled Jack in. We debated for hours before finally deciding to reach out to Lily. To our surprise, she answered on the first ring. "Mom?" Her voice was small, reminding me of when she was little and had a nightmare. "Sweetheart, we heard. Is everything okay?" There was a long pause, then a choked sob. "No, Mom. Nothing's okay." Jack and I invited her and Ben over the next evening. They sat across from us at the kitchen table, looking worn and defeated. Lily said, "We can't stop fighting," with her eyes lowered. Parents are upset because they were not there at the wedding. Ben resents me for the wedding fiasco, for alienating all of you. Ben looked sad as he nodded. I love Lily, but I don't know if love is enough anymore. Taking a big breath, I carefully considered what to say. "Getting married isn't easy," I began. "Jack and I have experienced our share of difficult times. However, divorce, that's a significant move. Are you certain you've exhausted all options?" Lily started crying. "I'm really sorry," she cried. "Thank you very much, Dad. Jack, I really apologize for my words and the way I handled you. I'm sorry I tried to force you to pick, Mom. I'm to blame for everything." Jack extended his arm across the table to grasp Lily's hand. "My dear, you haven't destroyed everything. Yes, you made errors, but everyone does. Have you given family therapy a thought?" They both nodded, which relieved us. For the first time in months, we really talked for the remainder of the evening. By the time Lily and Ben departed, there had been more tears, but also laughter and a glimmer of optimism. Lily and Ben immersed themselves in therapy throughout the course of the ensuing months. Even Jack and I attended a session with them at the therapist's request. Reopening past wounds and misunderstandings was difficult, but it was also therapeutic. We saw changes gradually but steadily. Ben and Lily resumed their familiar glances at one another. Family meals resumed their regularity, this time with laughter and talk in place of hostility. Lily joined Jack and me one evening as we sat on the patio taking in the sunset. Like she did when she was younger, she curled up close to Jack. She said, "Dad, I'm very sorry for everything. I was a fool to ever suggest anything other from the fact that you are my true father." With misted eyes, Jack gave her a firm hug. "I adore you, little one. I have always done so, and I always will." Regarding Tom, we discovered from Martha and George that he was given a suspended sentence for the deception. He had presumably left town to start over someplace else when we last heard from him. Not everything in life is ideal. Our family is still recovering, and Lily and Ben continue to face challenges. However, I feel hopeful as I sit here and watch Jack and Lily smiling and speaking. We made it through this storm, and I think we're stronger for it. I have no idea what the future holds, but one thing is certain. Family isn't about biological relations or formal records. Rather, it's about love, forgiveness, and being united in the face of adversity. And we are unquestionably a family by that definition.